Hello everyone, I'm Esther J, also known as Esthervescent, and welcome to not really a review, because guaranteed I'm not going to review this very well because I probably won't look at half of the film. It's just me being so excited about and essentially just ranting about how much I love The Greatest Showman. If you haven't seen The Greatest Showman, don't watch this video yet, because however much it's not really a film that you can spoil that much, it will affect you if you hear this video and then go and see it. Saying that, loads and loads and loads of people told me everything they thought about the film, because I saw it really late and everyone was like, oh, it's so good, you need to watch it, Esther, you're the musical one of us. Like, why haven't you seen it yet? Cinema does take a really long time and it is quite expensive, so you do want to, make sure you're going to see the film that you actually need to see in the cinema, and you can't just buy the DVD later and watch it at home. I am so happy I got to see this, because I believe people now. It was amazing. I loved it so much. That doesn't mean I wasn't critical of it. I am a musical theatre student, theatre person. I am quite critical of musicals, and there was definitely a lot of parts when I went, really? And sometimes the flow of the songs was just a little bit unnatural. It was just like, here I am just walking down the street having a normal conversation, and now I'm bursting into song. It just wasn't the most realistic thing that I thought it would be. Saying that, I wasn't expecting the most professional musical theatre standard from it, for obvious reasons of, it's a movie musical. Essentially, I expected what I got, but the songs were phenomenal. Earlier today I watched Evan Edinger's review. I think we're both kind of like, it's not really a review because I don't really review stuff, but it's my general thoughts about it. And I do agree with him to some extent. I know what he means. There was parts of it that were just so disappointing. If you don't know what video I'm talking about, I'll link it in the iCard now, but he basically talks about why he's passionate about The Greatest Showman, and he loves it because, same reason for me, Pasek Paul, who wrote the soundtrack, wrote Dear Evan Hansen and La La Land. I love Dear Evan Hansen so much. It is one of my favourite musicals now. It's amazing. I haven't been to see it yet though, and I just want it to come to London so I can see it. It'd be so great. And La La Land I have mixed emotions about. It wasn't really a musical. It's a bit strange to say it wasn't really a musical, but La La Land, as I viewed it, was kind of its own genre of songs in a film with Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, and it was really good, but I'm just not sure if I'd call it like a full musical. Whereas The Greatest Showman, the first opening frame, which is Hugh Jackman stood in like a cool pose in a darkened blackout thing, but you can see his silhouette. I don't know how you do it, but it looks really cool, and the ensemble doing the thing, and every time it stopped it was just the drum. That was awesome. That was an amazing bit of cinematography and musical theatre films. This is why film musicals do work, because you can have dramatic shots, you can do stuff more than once, you don't have to make something so that you can incorporate it later, and every set piece doesn't have to be helpful for the rest of the thing, dependent on your budget, of course. So I went with two of my good friends, and they were laughing at me for most of the film, because I was here in my cinema seat so excited because it's a musical, and I get overly excited at films, especially musical films. Like, if you pop Hugh Jackman in a film, I'm probably gonna like it. I will say that. I've seen a lot of Hugh Jackman films, and however much the musical version of Les Mis is definitely better, as in the stage one, the film was nice to, introduce to everyone, though it was really long and it is literally just miserable. But I can respect him, considering that he did actually go to drama school and study musical theatre, and he is a musical theatre actor. Like, he didn't just study normal acting, he knows how to dance, he knows how to sing, he knows the differences that you have to do in theatre when you've got a song coming, as opposed to just in theatre when you're just doing a play, or in theatre in a film, not in theatre. So that song is the opening song, The Greatest Show. It's all very epic and everything goes around and Hugh Jackman's running about. The only thing that annoyed me is the cast album version. It combines both of the Greatest Show songs into one, and for me personally, I'd like one, I want them separate. I want one at the beginning and one at the end. Like, I found myself listening to the soundtrack, listening to the first half of it, then listening to the rest of the soundtrack, and then listening to the second half of it at the end after I've listened to the rest of the songs. I like musicals, I know it's quite sad. So then we go back to Little Hugh Jackman and Little Michelle Williams. That's the only thing. I have no idea what any of the characters were called. I had to Google it because it's not very well explained. I got P.T. Barnum and Jenny Lind, and that was about it. They didn't really mention many of the other characters' names enough, or obviously enough, that I could remember what they were called. I could just about remember his wife's name, which is Charity, but I just had no idea what any of them were called, and I guess a lot of them didn't have names, like the bearded lady was just the bearded lady. As far as I'm aware, she might have had a name, but I can't remember. For me, A Million Dreams was one of the best songs. From a song point of view, I loved it to pieces. It's just really cool and really good. The only thing is it does remind me of a lot of the other stuff that Pasek and Paul have done. I understand they are songwriters, so their songs will sound kind of similar, but it really did remind me of it, and there is times when you kind of think, okay, you have got to bring out something original, especially as this is set in the 19th century. Now we're on little things that annoyed me. The one thing that annoyed me is that I know a fair bit about P.T. Barnum. You can research on Google. There's enough reviews talking about how it was just historically inaccurate. But he wasn't a great guy. He was horrible. He was a con man. Like, he just wasn't very nice. And the film didn't really talk about it at all. They'd have said this film was inspired by the kind of general idea of P.T. Barnum and the circus and Barnum and Bailey. Then I would have been fine. It's the fact that they said it was based on P.T. Barnum. It wasn't. It was not that accurate to how he actually was in history, and that is annoying. But turning that aside and viewing it as just a happy little go-lucky musical, I loved it. I loved A Million Dreams. I love his kids. I love when they're like going around in the house and it's getting furnished and the kids are starting to suddenly appear and running around, and it's like, oh, this is exciting. I appreciate how they just use one song to gloss over his entire childhood through to adulthood. And I liked it, and their love story is nice and cute and lovely, and it's rags to riches and whatever. And I really, really love it, and I think I do want to cover that song. I really do. I might. I don't know. And then he buys, I can't remember what it was before, and he turns it into a wax museum, and his kids are like, you should have something more alive in this. And then he gets people throughout the song come alive, and they do a circus show, and everyone's like, whoa, this is so cool. It's entertainment as we see it today. Also, I'm really glad Zendaya was in this film. She's been in a lot of films I've watched recently, and considering I watched Shake It Up when I was a kid, it's quite exciting, but also it's a bit like, you're a real actor now. Then The Other Side. If A Million Dreams wasn't my favourite song, The Other Side is. Not from a song point of view, but the cinematography, the way that when they're at that bar, the glasses are sliding in and out, and the guy that played the barman, I felt really sorry for him. He was just having to slide alcoholic beverages down the bar. But that was so well done. It was so cleverly done. I am slightly annoyed that Zac Efron was in this film. I understand he's furthering his career now, and he wasn't too bad. He did really, really well. But when you have the perspective that he didn't sing in High School Musical 1 because he wasn't good enough, it just shows me that he isn't a musical actor, and you can see that in the film. When Hugh and Zac are on the screen together, you can see it. You can see how much, like, just more equipped for musical theatre Hugh is than Zac is. And it's fine, and I understand different actors have different levels, but there's so many brilliant musical theatre actors who could have played that role, but instead they cast a celebrity. I agree he did really, really well, and I agree now he's got a really good voice, but also it's a little bit sad. It's a little bit sad. Most of you will completely disagree with that. I know loads of my friends are just so happy that he was in the film, but from a musical perspective, and being a musical theatre actress, there's a lot of me that's like, So then P.T. Barnum, played by Hugh Jackman, goes off and he's like, I want to appeal to the upper classes, and his wife's like, oh, but you don't have to because you've got me and the kids, and yay, and you've started your thing and it's all going great. And he meets this Swedish singer, Jenny Lind, and Never Enough is the song, and I love it. I really, really love it. The only thing is, she's a renowned Swedish opera singer. The song is not operatic at all. She sings it like an alto. She belts it out. It doesn't sound like a musical song. It sounds like an Adele song. And in a way, I'm okay with that. But also, I'd just have loved it to just be an actual opera song that she sang then. That would have sounded amazing and it would have fit so well. So I understand that it is a more modern musical than when it was set, but that was a little bit upsetting. By this point, I cried in the opening scene of The Greatest Show when Hugh Jackman's doing his poses and and I didn't stop crying from that point onwards, but that's just my personal loving musicals. Then, This Is Me. If you've seen the film and you've seen the scene where This Is Me is sung, you'll know what I mean when I'm just going to kind of go, it's brilliant, it's wonderful. In the film it's so wonderfully done, and it's the part where you start to see that Barnum is a little bit of a bad guy, because he's kind of like, oh, don't come to the party, you know, you're weird, essentially, because that's how they're portrayed in the film. But I love it, and that's one of the great things about this film. It promotes diversity in a time when people of colour weren't liked. It is the 19th century. They're out there and they're getting jobs and they're essentially being famous, but then if you go back to the historical side of it, Barnum was using them. But in the film view, it's all very nice and positive, because they burst out and they're like, I don't care what you think, I don't care who you think I am, this is me, this is who I'm going to be, and it's just so sassy and so wonderful, and I love it so much. And then there's the romance between Zendaya's character and Zac Efron's character. It wasn't really addressed, like, very obviously. There was just a bit of like, oh, I think they like each other. Oh, they do. They're kind of staring at each other and staring at each other. They really didn't do much else. And then they were like, rewrite the stars. And it was all very lovely. And the tightrope scenes, oh, I'd love to see how many times they got that wrong. Oh, but we can't be together because you're a trapeze artist and I'm an upper class guy. They didn't emphasise that it was about her race enough. I got that from just personally watching it, because at the time it would have been really inappropriate for him to be with her. But it seemed like they were just playing on the trapeze artist thing, and was that such a terrible thing to be? Flexible and not scared of heights. So I think they kind of glossed over their romance. I liked the song. I think it was very well done. Yet again, it was very poppy. It wasn't very musical. It did sound a bit like it sounded like a pop song that Zendaya and Zac Efron had released, not a musical song that was going to be sung on Broadway and different stuff like that. So shortly before Tightrope, which, oh, it's a good song, opera singer, Swedish Nightingale woman, falls in love with Barnum, and she tries to make advances on him, and he's like, no, I'm a married man, this is seriously not alright, and he refuses her advances. But then at the end of her last show, when she sings Never Enough Again, she kisses him, and that gets put in the news, and Jenny Lin's like, I don't want to do this tour anymore, bye! And it leaves Barnum, who put everything into this, which he didn't tell Charity, bankrupt. Then we go back to the circus, and the people who were protesting against the circus essentially burn it down after a bit of a fight scene. So Zac Efron's character runs in all romantically like, no! And then Zendaya's character comes around the side and she's like, oh, I'm fine. Where's Zac Efron's character? And Hugh Jackman's like, oh, well, I have to go and save him, because Hugh Jackman is just a hero in every film he's in, except for the fact that he should be a really bad guy in this, but he's not. So he runs in and gets him out. The both of them are like really badly burnt, and the entire place is just absolutely ruined. And then word that the tour's been cancelled gets there, and they're all like, what? And Charity takes the daughters to stay with her parents because she doesn't want anything to do with Barnum, because she saw a picture in the news of him kissing Jenny Lind, and she's like, and then Barnum's like drinking in a pub, and then all of the circus people show up, and he's like, well, I can't do anything for you now. And they're trying to persuade him to rebuild the circus, like, Barnum, we can do this, like, it's not over, we don't need, like, all these fancy things, blah, 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 blah. And Barnum's like, the circus wasn't for me, it was for everyone I love, and it's all very nice, which is from now on. Then it's a really nice mirroring scene, because Barnum goes up to Charity, his wife's house, which he did in A Million Dreams when he was a kid, and he's doing now that he's an adult. I like it. And then they mend their relationship, and it's all very happy and nice, and the kids are like, Dad! And that was a very cute scene. I Like, I'd kind of finished crying because I'd cried far too much, and then that happened and I kept crying again. If you haven't gathered, I love this film. And then everyone's like, well, we need to rebuild the circus, but it's way too expensive and they haven't got any money left. And then, I can't actually remember who has, but someone has this idea and they're like, we don't need a building, we just need a tent in the field over there. That bit I wasn't quite okay with. I understand circus tents, they had, like, I know this is where they came from, but also it was a bit like, oh, how convenient. Look, there's a field and we can put a tent in it and somehow have enough support for tightrope swingers, but, you know. Oh yeah, and this all happened because Zac Efron's character was like, I've still got my side of the profits. Do you, like, I'll use my money to do this. And Barnum's like, no. And then he's like, no, I insist, it'll be great. And they've got this new revamped circus and they've changed the show slightly because of all the different things that they have to do. And it's really, really cool. And everyone's like, yay, the circus is back, this is great. Because seemingly they don't care what happened with the Jenny Lind tour, we'll just push that out of the corner. And then there's this cute scene and Barnum does like the first half of the Greatest Show reprise. This might be wrong, but I think this is what happened. And he like takes his hat off and gives it to Zac Efron's character, who I still don't know the name of. I think his name was Philip. Philip! He gives it to Philip. He's like, I need to spend more time with my family. I don't think he actually says that, but essentially he's saying, I need to spend more time with my family. And then he goes happily and sits with his family and it's all very happy and the film just kind of, And then it ended. And all I can say about that is, for a musical, it was really, really short. It's only like, I want to Google how short it was. It's 105 minutes long. That's really short for a musical. I know it was kind of a kids' film, but, you know, it was awesome. And so that's kind of everything I thought about it. I loved it so much. I loved the cinematography. I loved the way they did so much of it. There was a lot of it I think they kind of glossed over and went, we need to finish this. And they made it very child-friendly. It's not very like the original story. I will agree with that. There's so many historical inaccuracies and so much of it is just kind of like, this happened and move on. And I'm not really okay with that kind of filmmaking, but looking at the film as a whole and not pulling out the individual parts of how it was a bit, I loved it. I loved it so much. If you haven't seen it, it is really, really good. And even if it's not a particularly driving film, like there's no like major crises in it, nothing really goes that wrong. But it's just a time when you can just kind of watch the film, step out of whatever your day has been, and it's just quite happy and go lucky, and then you're like, oh, are they going to get back together? And then they do, and you're fine. Like, the amount of time that it takes, that's the only thing about the film, the amount of time that it takes for them to build up the tension is relieved again. So it's not really a film where you have to worry about the characters or think, oh, what's going to happen? Because by the time you've thought, oh, what's going to happen? You're thinking, oh, it's all right again. But the film is really good, and what it promotes, especially in the song This Is Me, which is diversity and accepting everyone as they are, and that it doesn't matter what you look like, or what colour skin you have, or whether you've got a beard and you're a girl or not. It doesn't matter. It's who you are inside that is important, and that I can agree with. Also, if you like Dear Evan Hansen and La La Land, and you think, oh, it's Pasek and Paul, I like it, you won't necessarily like it just because it's Pasek and Paul. It's very different to the other things they did. A lot of the melodies are the same. I found myself singing the other songs, especially from Dear Evan Hansen, in The Greatest Showman, because there was a bit like, oh, but this sounds the same. Oh, no, it doesn't. Oh yeah, I'm not watching Dear Evan Hansen. Sad. All I came out of it thinking, which is very different to, I'm going to compare it to La La Land, because it was a very similar film. La La Land, I thought, this is a film. It's not going to be a musical. If they turn it into a musical, they'll have to change a lot. I'm not quite sure how they'll do it. It'll be a work of genius, I'm sure, but it works as a film. This, I was thinking, oh, they really need to put this on stage. It will be a lot better. I loved the film to pieces. It was amazing. There was so much they could have improved upon, but there was so much they got right. And for what they were trying to do in making a nice, happy-go-lucky, hearty, yay, it's a show, Greatest Showman, woo, film, they did it fine. It was really, really good. And if you just kind of want to enjoy a film for a while, go and see it. I really, really, really recommend it. I did love it so much. And the soundtrack, a lot of people have been a bit critical about the soundtrack. but I love it to pieces. It's amazing. Some of it sounds a bit more like pop songs than musical songs, but I think that's why it's so popular in general and not just in a small musical clique of people. And they did that well. Sometimes it's hard to promote a musical in a world of superhero films, but they did it really, really well. And for that, I'm just... well done. It was a really well-made film. I've really enjoyed it. It was really short, but other than that, it was nice to just zone out and watch it. Whilst I was watching it, having not reflected on all of the kind of bits, all I was thinking was, man, this is a great show because it is so good and it is so just kind of light-hearted and enjoyable. It is appropriate for all ages. There's not much conflict in anything, which is a kind of a sad thing, but also it does work. And really, if you just want to see a nice happy film with a musical and it's got a few actors, well, a lot of actors that you'll recognise in, then go and see it. You really, really will like it. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Thank you for watching this video and bearing with me ranting about The Greatest Showman and how much I love it for, well, I've been filming for 40 minutes, so. And I really hope that you liked it. If you have a different opinion or if you really agree with something, comment that down below. Comment your favourite songs from The Greatest Showman, your favourite scenes. Just tell me what you thought of it as well, because this is an open conversation. That's why YouTube is so cool, because you guys, even though I'm filming now, we can stay in contact and community with each other. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I really hope to see you all in the next video. Stay strong, stay safe, stay smart and stay special. Goodbye! I'm really sad I haven't got a top hat, because then I could have made a really cool thumbnail. Oh well!